to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by two people that I am so fond of. We talk quite often. Lianne and Seb, how you guys doing today?
Hi, we're doing really good. We hope you're doing well too.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. This is something that has been a long time coming. Lianne is a good friend of mine. We talk every day. She has the YouTube channel, Theofficialscreamqueen, and they also do horror movie commentaries on Twitch every Monday and Thursday. All the links to that are down here in the description, guys. So make sure you're not only checking out the YouTube and subscribing and following them on Twitch, but I have their social media link down here as well. So make sure that you're following these guys. So what can you tell us about the official Scream Queen and what you guys are doing on Twitch, so people kind of have an idea of what you're doing over there?
Okay, yeah. So I started the official Scream Queen. I've had like a YouTube channel for a few years, and I kind of went on and off it. But I guess I started taking it seriously again when I met my friend over at Haunted Hippie, Kylie. I met her like, I met her like a year ago because I still am obsessed with watching like horror movie collections on YouTube. And I found her collection and I ended up messaging her on Instagram, and then she kind of inspired me to get back into doing YouTube a lot more. So I started doing that again last year, just doing like, I did a horror movie collection video and did like comparisons for original and remakes of horror. And then a lot of stuff went down in my life. But the last month or so, or last couple of months, I've kind of really been getting back into it again. And I've got so many people at the moment who inspire me to put my content out, like all of you guys in the group chat and Instagram, YouTube. You're also supportive, and I see everyone putting out really good content, which makes me want to work hard as well and be like, I'm putting out good content too. So yeah, and I just love talking about horror movies. I never really had a lot of friends growing up that were into horror. And now I have such a big family and friend group that love horror and love talking about it. It's so amazing. So yeah, and then
I do. While we're on that subject, I got to give a shout out to my little horror sister, Kylie. She's also the one that introduced us. She's a very good friend of mine, good friend of all of ours. She's been on the show as well. I've been on her channel. She's such a great, kind-hearted person. Go check her out. I have her social media links. Tell her congratulations. She just graduated from college. So we're all proud of you, Kylie. And thank you for hooking this interview up with us. So how did it start for you, Seb?
So how did it start for me? Well, I used to be into horror movies a little bit when I was younger, but when I met Lianne, obviously she's obsessed. So it was kind of catching a little bit like a virus, really, wasn't it? So because we were inside because of coronavirus, Lianne was obviously watching horror movies, and we watched them together, and it just developed into my addiction to horror movies as well. And that's what created Jump Scared, really. We were having so much fun watching horror movies, and we were cracking all these jokes all the time, and we were watching with our friends on like Discord call and stuff.
And we would send like videos to like specifically Kylie. It started off with just like Seb's reactions, because he hadn't seen a lot. And I think it started off with Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan.
With all the teleportation.
You know, we'd been drinking and just having a good time, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to send videos to Kylie. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we're like, Seb's really funny. And I was like, we should do like a YouTube channel or like horror commentary or something.
And then we found that like, although most people, one second, I'm just going to get my dog because he's making a lot of noise.
You're fine.
He's always on the YouTube channel and Discord and on Twitch as well.
Yeah.
So Danny, one of our members of the little crew.
Yeah.
So yeah, we decided that we're going to start Twitch, although it's mainly used for like gaming, and we're one of the only creators out there that does stuff like this. We thought it would be the best place, because then people can either watch the movie with us or they can just listen to the movie and us. And yeah, we've developed a little family there. We've got some people that work and then they watch it at work. Some people that come and join them watch movies with us. It's really great. It's a great way to meet people that love horror movies and just share experiences, talk about them, that type of thing. It's great.
Well, the horror community is hands down the best in the world. Like, everybody is so supportive because we all came from the same area. We all love getting scared, and we all just want the best for each other. There's no real selfishness in the horror community, because if you're succeeding, we're succeeding, and you meet some of the kindest, nicest people in the horror community. It's literally the best community I've ever been a part of, and I'm so proud to have you guys as friends. We met through this, you know, and it's
Yeah,
cool. We talk every
literally,
day
yeah.
now. So it's so
I mean,
rad to be able to be a part of all this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We formed a lot of friendships based on horror now. I mean, since meeting Lianne, I've met so many people that love horror. And I mean, like I said, I was kind of into horror when I was younger, but nowhere near to this extent. But I've met so many people through it. So I've got no problems with horror now.
Right. And it's funny because we always go back to what I feel like. I compare it to drugs. You know, you watch that first horror movie, you get that first real high, and then you're always chasing that again, trying to get that again. And that's why we are here today, to talk about what got you beautiful people started in the horror community. Let's start with you, Lianne. Your first horror movie was?
So I said Gremlins. Not really a scary one, more family horror, but it definitely impacted my childhood. It's really difficult to say if 100% for sure that was my first one, because my mum and dad are both huge horror fans. So growing up, I always had horror movies kind of in and out of my life. But I think Gremlins is definitely one of the first ones that I remember watching, and it definitely impacted my life.
I totally consider Gremlins a horror movie, man.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
If you feed that thing after midnight, seeing all that shit happen, come on, give me it. That's totally a horror movie. Totally a horror
Some people have that thing, like, if it's not scary, it's not a horror movie. And I'm like, hang on, horror movies don't have to be scary. Like, there's so many different kinds of horror. And plus, horror is subjective. So, like, I might find something not scary that other people do, you know?
To me, horror is the hardest genre to say this is a horror movie, because you can't say, well, for it to be a horror movie, there has to be death. There's death in A Land Before Time, The Lion King. You can't say, well, there's got to be blood and guts, because there's blood and guts on ER, Rescue 911. You know, so for me, like you said, horror is completely subjective. Like, I'm one of those people also that I consider Jurassic Park a horror movie. I've always thought, you know, like, that's total slasher. Like, that raptor is a total slasher. Like that kitchen scene where it's wrapping its hands around, like, total slasher, man.
I agree.
100% as well. We've done a Jurassic Park marathon, haven't we?
Yeah,
we consider it a horror movie.
That was the first movie we watched together, actually, was Jurassic Park.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
It was the first you watched together?
Yeah, the first one we watched together. Yeah, it's great.
That's so awesome.
We watched Scream, didn't we, on Halloween?
Yeah, we did.
That's another one.
Another great one.
Like you said, horror is so subjective that, like, because to me, what I think are the scariest movies, people don't even consider horror movies. Like that 2012 movie, like the End of the World type movies, those scare the shit out of me. Like The Day After Tomorrow. Like, to me, those are so terrifying. I would call those horror movies in my world because of how terrifying they are. So I mean, horror is so subjective. I've met people that want to say their first horror movie, like The Witches or Hocus Pocus. Like, if that shit scared you as a kid, that's totally horror. That's all we want, man. Yeah, I'm not a horror snob. I'm like, oh, it doesn't have 10 murders, so it's not a horror movie. Like, that's not who I am. So. But what about you, Seb? Where did horror start for you?
Well, I mean, I've watched some things like Jurassic Park when I was younger and stuff like that, but my most memorable experience, that's why I said it was my first, was Silence of the Lambs. That was a long time ago. My friend group decided that we were going to try and scare each other, so we each chose a horror movie to try and scare one another, and the one that everyone thought would scare me was Silence of the Lambs, because of Hannibal Lecter. I've got this thing about, like, cannibalism, just makes me feel a bit but after watching it, I loved it. It was great. I think that the acting in it is absolutely incredible, not just like from Hannibal himself, but from all of the different characters. Incredible. It's just stuck with me. I've rewatched it countless times, including with Lianne, and it's just a classic. I can watch it over and over and over again.
It's one of those movies that there's so many different scenes in it that I always liken back to. Like, one scene that's so small, but it always makes me laugh every time I watch it. When they go to Buffalo Bill, they're like, do you remember this girl? Oh, was she a big fat lady?
Your impression is so on point. I love that so much.
This movie has one of the most infamous ad-lib lines when Hannibal Lecter's like,
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
And that's one of those scenes that when you watch that, like, Jodie Foster's reaction is so genuine because she had no idea that was about to happen. So this is one of those movies that, to me, I consider this a mainstream horror. Like, this is a movie that is a horror movie that has won awards, which is obviously in the horror community something that is so few and far between. And there are people that don't consider this a horror movie. But man, when you watch the ending of this movie and you see the cop crucified up on the gate, and everybody's running around trying to figure out what's going on. That's totally like, I grew up a huge slasher fan. So when things turn slasher for me, I'm like, score, you know, and you have this whole build up into this, like that crucifixion scene to me as a kid. I remember just being like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's terrifying.
Oh God, the scene for me that freaks me out was the one with the mask, you know, where he wears the skin as the mask. I was like, oh my God.
I'm with you when he sits up in the ambulance and takes it off. Because at first you're watching it and you're like, Hannibal Lecter didn't go out like a bitch on top of an elevator. There's no way that happened. Then you see him take that mask off in the ambulance. You're like, I knew Hannibal Lecter wasn't no bitch. So
weird
true,
rooting
man.
for a psychopath, isn't it? But
I love it. I totally love it. So we talked about which scene affected you most, Seb. Lianne, let's bounce back to Gremlins. Which scene affected you the most from Gremlins?
It's really stupid because it's not even a scary scene, but like the scene, because it's like Christmas and like their Gizmo is under the Christmas tree and he's trying to play his little trumpet and all the gremlins are just bullying him. Like that really
spit on him
me because they spit on him. And like when I was growing up, I was kind of picked on for being slightly weird and strange because I liked a lot of things that other people didn't really like. So that really resonated with me. Like I felt like I was Gizmo.
Oh,
but
I know. This just turned into my first sad movie. Like I'm gonna have to have like, violins playing over time.
I really wanted a scary thing.
Got a mini violin for you, Lianne.
Yeah. It's so sweet. And Gizmo's
but no, that's
just
what I
a
love about
baby.
horror movies. Like the way that certain scenes can affect us that other people didn't even look at and didn't even consider. Like that's how amazing horror is. Like this scene that affected you so much because you have a big heart, not because you're weird. But you look at this and you take that to heart. You know, that you're a good person. That's what you feel when you look at this. And that to me is so amazing and so beautiful that in this movie that's full of, you know, one scene that always got me is the Christmas tree. When she's getting pulled into the tree and you see the eyes inside there. Like, you know, you have all these terrifying scenes as children that we watch. But to you, it's the one where you see Gizmo get his poor little heart broken because he's so proud of himself with that trumpet. Like, look at me, bitches. And they spit on him.
Just
if someone
so
gifted me Gizmo, I would be quite happy.
When I was growing up, I had like a Gizmo that was like a Furby.
Oh, he does look a bit like a Furby, doesn't it?
It was like a Furby version of Gizmo.
You didn't put it in water, did you?
No, I didn't. I think I might still have it, you know.
Really?
I have to, like, when we go back up.
Just make sure you don't get it wet. Don't feed it after it. Got a bunch of little Furbies running around now.
Light.
The bright light. So let's bounce back to you, Seb, for a second. When you think about Silence of the Lambs, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Just Anthony Hopkins' performance is absolutely incredible. Like even in the scenes where he doesn't do much, there's not much gore. Like you said, the Chianti scene. These little things is just so creepy. So creepy. Even the way he moves his eyes, just everything about him in that movie is just amazing. So I think that's why it stuck with me, actually, the movie itself, because if it weren't for him, I mean, everyone else is brilliant actors, but he just completely carried this movie to a whole new level. Amazing. It felt like you were in the movie, like it was real, like this actually happened. So yeah, I really love that. I haven't actually seen anything else with Hannibal in, but we need to, because I just think
I want you to watch Red Dragon.
Yeah.
Red Dragon. So good. I don't hear many people talk about it as well because like it's kind of overshadowed by Silence of the Lambs. But it's really good.
Yeah.
And then you got Hannibal Rising. But one thing about Silence of the Lambs that not a lot of people talk about as well is how it tackled some issues. Something I've always talked about is what I love about horror. Like you look at Tales from the Hood and you look at Get Out, you look at Candyman, you look at Nightmare on Elm Street. They all tackle and they all have very, very big meanings in them, but they're a horror movie first. They want to scare you first, but they do have that social commentary about them. Definitely. And that Silence of the Lambs too, with the cannibalism and the transgender. They didn't tackle it as well as they should have, being in the 80s. You know, they kind of made it something it shouldn't have been, but they were trying to put that out there that this is not something that is just supposed to be laughed at or joked about. This is something serious, you know, and this is something that we all need to take seriously, and people are their own people. And that's why that this movie, I think, has that social commentary. Obviously horror movie first, but it does have the commentary that comes along with it that I've always been a big fan of as well, because horror has a way of doing that. I mean, you go all the way back to George Romero's Night of the Living Dead and all the social commentary that came with that movie. And I love that horror has always been ahead of its time, even with female characters in general, because the term final girl, you know, they showed you in horror movies that women aren't just these defenseless, you know, they're not there for their titties, or they're not there to just get killed. They're there because they're badasses. Some of the most badass people in all of cinematic history are the final girls that we love, from Sydney to Ripley to, you know, these are some of the most badass, not just women, but people in horror and in movies in general. And horror started that final girl revolution of women are not just sex toys, and they're not just dumb blondes. They could be the most badass person in a film. And that's something else I've always loved about horror, is it's connected people and showed that everybody has their worth. It's not just, show her the titties and then cut her head off.
Some of my favorite scenes in that movie as well are the scenes, you know, when they're doing postmortems and stuff, and she knows more than the men, and she's just so incredible. She's an amazing final girl, if that's what you want to call her, but I think she's almost more than a final girl. She, you know, she is the main character. She solves this almost completely by herself off her own back, and that is amazing. And also, I mean, the transgender point, I think when you watch an older movie, as someone who's trans themselves, you have to watch it as if you're in that time period. You know, I personally don't take offense to it, because I think at the time that's what they knew. And I think it was quite an open-minded approach, actually, for the year that it was made, which to me is a good thing. I mean, there's no way that they're going to have 2021 minds in, you know, God knows what year, especially when we're watching, you know, other movies from the 80s, 70s, even 90s occasionally. I mean, the commentary is not brilliant compared to what it would be today, but for their time, it's pretty decent.
And that's what I mean. Like, it could have been better, but it's not shitting on people, you know, like that's what I love about it. It is ahead of its time. And it's something that we've all struggled with. Everybody has their own struggles, no matter what your struggle is. You know, you look at me, I'm a 35-year-old white man. Trust me, it's a lot harder than you think. But, you know, we've all had our struggles, and we've all been able to overcome them. And watching other people be able to overcome that helps give us strength too. So I'm glad that you are so confident in who you are. I love you with all my heart, Seb. And I'm so happy that you're all that matters. Dude, we have maybe 100 years on this fucking planet. Be happy. Who the fuck cares about anything else? In 100 years, all I want is be happy. I want to raise my kids to know that when I die, they can take care of themselves. And I want to know that I loved as much as I possibly could. Because in this 100 years, that's all I got. You know, nothing else is going to matter down the road. So I'm so happy for you, Seb, that you are able to be so confident and proud of yourself, because I am confident and proud of you. So,
that's so sweet. That's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me.
Anytime. I true. You know, I love you both so much.
Thank you so much. We love you too. We love this bonding experience.
Yeah, right. Bonding over horror again. Back over to you, Lianne. What is your favorite scene? We talked about what scene affected you most from Gremlins. What would you say your favorite scene is?
I think my favorite scene, I'm kind of tossed up between two. It's either the scene where the gremlin gets microwaved.
Yeah.
That's a great scene. Or the scene when they're in the theater watching Snow White. And it's just, that scene is so funny. It's just hilarious seeing them all watch the movie and then I think they're like trying to sing along as well.
Yes.
Like,
that's what I love about this movie, man. Like, because I've talked about how I think Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. That's really, you know, where horror comedy started. And in the 80s, horror comedy really started to take off. I mean, you even got the Christmas caroling scene where the lady opens her door and they're all out there singing Christmas carols. Like, it's such a beautifully done movie. And this is a movie that holds up today. Like, we watch this on Christmas every year. Like, we have our holiday movies. On Father's Day, we watch Creepshow, you know, and I'll sit at the couch with my kids going, "Where's my cake?" You know, at Christmas, we watch Gremlins. You know, like, we have our holiday movies that we watch, and it shows that they still hold up to this day. So we talked about, guys, the first horror movies you watched and how they affected you. But now I'm going to go scream on you for a second. What's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie? Let's start with you this time, Seb.
Oh, God, that would be really, really difficult. When I think of my favorite horror movies, I think of them in categories. But I mean, I'll say my first favorite horror movie, because I mean, as I say, I didn't really watch many when I was younger. Yeah. The first one that hit me was Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. The soundtrack slaps. Freddy Krueger is hilarious, but also scary. Just so much character in that movie. That was the first movie that gave me the feeling. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, I'm the same way, because Nightmare on Elm Street 3, growing up, like, I can't tell you how many times, like, I'd get to the final boss in a video game and I'd be like, "Welcome to primetime, bitch." You know, like, that was my thing growing up. Like, And my buddy, Josh Shepard, the drummer from Coheed and Cambria, he's getting that thing like with her head through the TV. He's getting that made and putting it up in his house, like it's like a decoration. Yeah, and it's one of those things where you're pissed off. Like, why didn't I think of that? Like, that's such a brilliant fucking idea. Like, to have that.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
If I walked in someone's house and seen that hanging up, I'd be like, I know I love you. Like, we're best friends forever.
Automatically friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie is just so hilarious, so many amazing one-liners, and still scary. I mean, we've seen a few since then that I've got that feeling with, and I would say those are in my favorites. But the first one, the most memorable one, where I was like, I turned to Lianne and I said, Lianne, this is the most amazing movie I've ever watched in my life. And she was like, what? I'm like, it is. It's so incredible. I love it. So
you look at all the different deaths, like the one where he's the puppet and he's walking, and the way they shoot that with the different scenes.
Oh no,
so
good.
And man, you were talking about how bad you felt for Gizmo when they were spitting on him. That's how I felt when Freddy got the needle hands and stuck him in the girl's arm, the recovering addict. Because you watch her almost just like give up and give herself into it, and then like that. Every time I watch that scene, I feel so awful. It's, everybody's recovered from some type of addiction, and for you to come that far in recovery and be killed like that. Look, I get, guys, it's a movie, it's not real, I understand, but that's the point of being entertained by a movie, is I want to feel. And that's something that in a horror movie makes me feel. Someone that beat their addiction, and then dickhead burn boy Freddy Krueger comes along, is like, ha! That sucks, man. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
So, Seb, we're sitting at Dream Warriors Nightmare 3. What about you, Lianne? What's your favorite scary movie?
My favorite horror movie of all time is Midsummer. The first time I watched that movie, I was kind of in a really rough place in terms of with my ex-boyfriend. So that movie was really refreshing for me to watch. It felt like a cleanser almost. And I don't know, it made me like deal with things much better and come to a lot of realizations. And it's just such a beautiful movie. And Florence Pugh is just so amazing. Like, her crying was just completely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And that's one of those horror movies that Anna Sweet Anna, another person, this whole movie happens in the daytime. 90% of it is all like, this is not your dark, brooding horror movie. That's what I love about Midsummer. Like, I'm so glad you picked that. I can just imagine you Googling after you watch that movie and calling your ex-boyfriend like, hey, I got a place for us to go.
I wish I had.
That's such a great movie to fall back on, because it's a Ari Aster, A24 alone, like Hereditary. There's been two movies in my life that I watched in the cinema that the whole crowd felt something at the same time. The first one was Saw, when Jigsaw stood up in that bathroom. The whole theater was just like, and then Hereditary.
I wish I could have been there to see that. That would have been amazing.
The car scene in Hereditary with the pole.
Yeah.
The whole theater was just.
I had never felt so shocked in my life.
I've got emo goosebumps right now.
Yeah,
just thinking about that moment of everybody going.
I actually went to see Hereditary with the same ex-boyfriend I was talking about.
Oh no!
Yeah. And that car scene, I was just so shocked. I was like, I did not see that coming at all. Like, oh my gosh! And yeah, Ari Aster is just a fantastic director, and I'm so excited to see what else he brings out. He's really good, and
his movies are like artwork, aren't they?
Yeah, there are literally like pieces of art.
We've talked about this before. I think if Silence of the Lambs came out today, it would be an A24 movie. Like, it would totally be an Ari Aster type movie that's just like so genius on top of what the horror is to it. There's so much of that commentary that we see with those other movies that you have to watch. It's not just an empty thing. So, well, before I let you guys go, we are going to go back to our first horror movie, and we are going to be ranking Seb, Silence of the Lambs. Lianne, we're going to be ranking Gremlins, 0 to 5 skulls. Now, when we're doing this ranking, we're not ranking it on production. We're not being film critics or the acting. We're ranking these movies just strictly on what they mean to you and how much they affected you as a child. So I'm going to start with you this time, Lianne. Gremlins, 0 to 5 skulls. Your ranking would be?
I would give it 4 skulls.
Oh.
It was like just a huge part of my childhood. We'd watch it like easily every Christmas or even throughout the year, to be honest. I also love the sequel, Gremlins 2. It's a fantastic movie. And like I said, like I loved it so much. I even had like merchandise from like the movie growing up. I had like toys of Gizmo and that. So yeah, it really helped, you know, pave the way of what would eventually become my proper really love for horror. So yeah, 4 out of 5 skulls.
Oh, nice one.
So let's bounce back to Sound of the Lamb. Seb, your ranking would be?
I actually think I'd give it 5, just because it stands up so much today. I mean, it wasn't just a kid movie for me. I saw it when I was about 13, and I can continue to rewatch it so much today. And I think it's just such an amazing movie. When you think of the top 10 horror movies of all time, for me, that is up there. And
Sure.
it always will be. I think it's I don't know, it will last forever, that movie. It's untouchable by a lot of movies, really.
Yeah.
It's at the top. So yeah,
I agree.
that's definitely a 5.
So
Yeah.
I do appreciate you guys so much for coming on. Everybody, make sure you're clicking the links down here in the description, following them on Twitch and social media, and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Seb is on the channel as well. There was a Conjuring 3 reaction video, which I completely loved, by the way. I thought that was great.
Thank you.
So make sure you guys are checking them out. Don't go anywhere, guys. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.